The 85th Academy Awards take place this Sunday, bringing an end to the most open awards season in years. Nobody, it seems, has any idea which film will emerge victorious. It might be Argo, it may be Lincoln, it could be Les Misérables, or a rearing outsider like Django Unchained. To quote William Goldman, nobody knows anything. Happily, however, help is at hand. I'm joined to preview this year's nominees by The Guardian film critic Peter Bradshaw and films editor Catherine Shoard, and they've never been wrong. You can set your watch by their predictions, and if they say it's Life of Pi's year, well, then you can bet your house and let the good times roll. We begin in a spirit of uncharacteristic gallantry with the Best Actress category, a race that's notable for pitting the oldest ever nominee against the youngest ever nominee. These are the 5 contenders. Jessica Chastain chasing Bin Laden in Zero Dark 30, Jennifer Lawrence dancing her way to glory in Silver Linings Playbook, Emmanuelle Riva creeping towards the deathbed in Amour, Quvenzhané Wallis romancing the auroch in Beasts of the Southern Wild, and Naomi Watts up to her neck in The Impossible. Peter, out of all of those nominees, which is the one that impressed you personally the most?
I would say Emmanuelle Riva. It's sort of close in some ways, but Emmanuelle Riva brought such depth and resonance to this almost unbearably moving role of the woman who suffers a stroke and then vascular dementia and appears to be dying almost in real time as the film unspools. It's a difficult role in such a very real sense, but she handled it very well.
Catherine, what are your thoughts?
I'd like to say Emmanuelle Riva will get it, and you know, there's lots of arguments for that the Oscar voters are knocking on, generally speaking. I do still think Chastain may sweep in there and hunt it down at the last minute.
Well, she was the favourite about 6 weeks ago, and then there's been such a backlash against Zero Dark 30 that it seems to be kind of holed below the waterline now, doesn't it?
I think that's true, and yet basically the Academy loves Bigelow, and she's not that out of favour, and they do need to give it something, whether or not they give it screenplay or sort of editing, something like that. I think Chastain will get it because Chastain has not been marked at all by this backlash, and it is a very good performance. It's also one of those performances that when you see it in clips, it comes out of it terribly badly because she just looks like some petulant kid having a
she just
rant.
looks angry all the time.
But I think she's great in it, actually. I mean, I think it's a very sort of impressive thriller, and she's really good. And it's sort of...
And she anchors the whole film. A
really
film that's
does.
basically about the nuts and bolts of the process of searching for Bin Laden, but she is the sort of still quiet centre of it all.
Yeah, I think that's right. I don't know. What about you? What do you think?
I think Emmanuelle Riva. I think that, you know, it's her birthday as well. It's her 86th birthday on Oscar night. And these things shouldn't matter. And
they
yet,
shouldn't matter. And they don't.
They sort of...
They sort of do.
They sort of, you know, Academy voters have one eye on the headlines a little bit.
Yeah.
Mais tu fais quoi? Tu avais laissé l'eau couler.
Dis donc, qu'est-ce qui t'arrive? Tu es complètement folle? C'est une blague?
Pardon?
C'est une plaisanterie ou... Ça se veut une plaisanterie ou quoi?
Quelle plaisanterie? Je ne comprends rien.
Emmanuelle Riva set fair for Oscar night glory, possibly. And now, let's move on to the men. The nominees for this year's Best Actor Oscar. Daniel Day-Lewis is Abraham Lincoln. Bradley Cooper is jogging, not dancing, through Silver Linings Playbook. Hugh Jackman stole a loaf of bread in Les Misérables. Joaquin Phoenix plays the silly animal in The Master. And Denzel Washington is high as a kite in Flight. Catherine, I'd really love to see Phoenix win this one, but I just don't think it's going to happen.
No, I mean, that's one of those ones that was locked down about 4 years ago when this Lincoln was in pre-production. There's just no touching him. And that's correct. You know, it is absolutely amazing. Phoenix, yeah, there's something so lovable just about the concept of him winning. I'd adore that too. It's an incredibly strong year for actors. I mean, wow, you've got all those 5. They're fantastic. Denzel is wonderful.
He's great in that. I think it's
so
almost his best
great.
performance.
I agree.
I think possibly Bradley Cooper is a little bit callow, only since he's slightly inexperienced. He doesn't have the kind of richness of technique and maturity that some of these other contenders seem to have. I like Hugh Jackman. I think in terms of his leap, they suddenly kind of leapt up to do this. Joaquin Phoenix, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant to see him win it. And of course Daniel Day-Lewis, eerie. I mean, a seance, really. He really does. You really do feel like you are watching kind of newsreel footage of Abraham Lincoln after a while. And as Catherine says, Denzel Washington, a classic Denzel performance, a classic above the title star turn. Sheer pleasure to watch, real pleasure to watch. So this year's Best Actor list, absolutely terrific.
But is there anybody but Daniel Day-Lewis who can actually get it?
No, I mean, possibly if, I don't know, I mean, I just don't think so. If, but through some clerical error, he was excluded from the list at the last moment, some steward's inquiry or something like that, some problem with his weight, or something like that, then possibly Denzel could gallop up behind. But no, I think it's Daniel Day-Lewis.
Abolishing slavery settles the fate for the millions now in bondage, and unborn millions to come.
It's either the amendment or this Confederate peace. You cannot have both.
Slavery, sir, it's done.
Time now for the Best Director shortlist, and wouldn't you know it, there's a notable absence here too. The nominees for Best Director: Michael Haneke with Amour, Ang Lee for Life of Pi, David O. Russell for Silver Linings Playbook, Steven Spielberg with Lincoln, and 30-year-old Ben Zeitlin for Beasts of the Southern Wild. Peter, no Affleck on there.
No, it's a measure of how extraordinarily prominent Argo is this year that is considered to be a notable omission. I think in any other year, a more sane year, you would think, yeah, of course Ben Affleck isn't on the list. Don't be ridiculous. Quentin Tarantino not being on the list. Paul Thomas Anderson not being on the list. Leos Carax not being on the list. Those are the notable omissions. But Ben Affleck not being on the list, why are we so excited about that? Well,
we're excited because it's probably the favourite to win Best Picture.
Because it's probably the favourite to win. I don't think I've ever been quite as baffled by anything, really, as Argo. I think it's almost like one of those semi-quirky outsiders that come in, like The Crying Game or Slumdog Millionaire, and yet that isn't exactly how people think of it. People think of it as a very important film, and its prominence is entirely not to be questioned in any way. I can only think that it has something to do with this aspect that people talk about, that it's about the movies saving the day. I guess that's what it is. I guess it's what it is. I don't know.
What do you think, Catherine? Are you surprised not to see Affleck? And what about the ones that are there? Is it a good list?
It's a weird list. I mean, you sort of, like Peter says, you don't know who will win because you don't know quite who came, you know, how they came to this list. It's sort of an interesting list.
It's almost like there could be a total alternative list that would be just as valid as this one.
Absolutely. I mean, Bigelow's not in it either. Yeah, I mean, Spielberg will presumably get it, and thus Lincoln will presumably get Best Picture because they rarely split them. I mean...
I think it was Driving Miss Daisy that was the last film to win Best Picture where the director wasn't nominated. And that's 1990. So it doesn't happen.
No, I don't know. I mean, it's just conceivable it could be Ang Lee, but it's not going to be Beasts. It's not going to be Amour.
Is it not going to be Amour? I mean, Haneke is... This is astonishing news that he's even bracketed
it's
there,
brilliant.
isn't it?
It's brilliant news that they are at last... recognising his extraordinary talent. I mean, traditionally these great European films tend to be, we tend to wait to see if they'll be nominated for Best Foreign Film and then they're not. And, and that's how it usually plays out.
It's always like a Japanese comedy, isn't it?
Yes, I think nothing ever happens. Here, I think the Academy is responding to the much more conventionally poignant and sentimental aspects of this film, which of course is not poignant and sentimental in that sense at all, but I think that's what they are responding to, and they're not responding to Haneke's direction particularly, and there is no cult of Haneke in a way that we have in this country or in Europe. So I think however much that film is admired, I can't see Michael Haneke coming anywhere near it, and I can't see Ben Zeitlin, who has done very well indeed to get on this list, much though I admire his film and I like his film. Otherwise, David O. Russell, that would be interesting, really, really interesting. In some ways, it would be great. It would be a real wild card, a real monkey wrench in the works to see him bound up on stage and do or say something outrageous.
I think he's made better films than Silver Linings Playbook.
Yeah, he has.
But Catherine doesn't agree.
What? I'm not sure about that, and I don't think he'd say anything outrageous either. He seems very muted at the moment. Wow. He doesn't seem to. He doesn't do a Lily Tomlin kind of rant on stage. He just says thank you.
No, maybe not.
Maybe
not. No, I think it'll be Steven Spielberg. I think all in all, but it is very open. Weirdly, because of this Argo factor, the idea that Steven Spielberg might win it with Lincoln because everything's so open is pretty bizarre.
You're going to try to pass the amendment to abolish slavery. No one's loved as much as you by the people. Don't waste that power.
Time now to move to the main event. It's the race for Best Film, and wouldn't you know it, there's 9 of them. The nominees for the Best Film Oscar: Amour, Argo, Beasts of the Southern Wild, Django Unchained, Les Misérables, Lincoln, Life of Pi, Silver Linings Playbook, and Zero Dark 30. Catherine, what's your favourite out of the 9?
Well, it's Silver Linings Playbook. I think that's been discussed. But I think the thing is, who will they go for? Will they split the vote? Will they do a daisy and split director and picture? If they do, then Argo will obviously get it. If they don't, then Lincoln will obviously get it. If they go crazy, Les Mis might get it. Because the thing is, people respond to Les Mis as if it's a religion. That's how strongly they feel about it. And, you know, there's lots of sort of films that have that kind of zealotry thing in them, like, you know, like Lincoln, actually, and even sort of Argo has a weird religious thing going on. But, you know, that's my sort of waking nightmare, is that Les Mis will come in and walk off.
It'll come in singing.
Yeah, it certainly will, because it will dominate the ceremony in terms of all the kind of crap that goes on.
The show tunes and the jokes will be a lot about Les Mis.
So, you know, who knows?
Peter?
I'm on the record, as they say, of favouring Django Unchained. I think it is a brilliant film with all sorts of brilliant other things going on which haven't been kind of nominated. Such a brilliant film, such an all-round cinematic experience. It would be...
But doesn't stand a chance in hell.
Sort of doesn't stand a chance in hell. That's another thing. There are some things on the list here which sort of baffle me. I wish the Oscars would have, like BAFTA, an outstanding debut prize. Then I could be very enthusiastic about Beasts of the Southern Wild. I would be able to replicate other people's apparent enthusiasm for this film. It's a very good film. If there was an Oscar outstanding debut, which I seriously, incidentally, think is a very good idea for them, and they can have that for free, then Beasts of the Southern Wild would be a great candidate. It would be funny to see Les Mis win it. I think it would be hilarious to see Les Misérables. It would be such a kind of boost for this country. It would be such a sort of...
Oh, it would not. It would be absolute... My God, it would drag us through the mud.
I think it would be hilarious if it won it. I admire that film. I think it's exhilarating and mad. It's brilliantly done, and I like it. As Catherine says, it's a religion, and I'm not part of the religion, but I sort of admire its fervour and its craziness. It would be hilarious to see it win, but I don't think it's got a chance in hell.
Are we all leaning very slightly towards Argo? And if so, what on earth is that about?
I don't know. I think films have to go semi-quirky to win it, and Argo is sort of semi-quirky.
I think semi-quirky is the worst. Either play it straight or go completely nuts.
It's the worst as far as we're concerned, but as far as they're concerned, it's just unusual enough to get under their skin and make them feel good about themselves, not just rewarding any old multiplex nonsense, but a classy, interesting, off-the-wall, left-field little film. And that's what Argo, I think, has got. It's got this satirical thing going on, but not that satirical. It's taking the mickey a little bit about the CIA, but not very much, of
Hollywood.
course. And but all those things, those two institutions, the CIA and Hollywood, are basically left untouched at the end of the film. Again, I'm clutching at straws here because I still can't totally explain the prominence of this film, which has kind of crept up on me.
Catherine, explain it. Explain Argo.
It.
Justify
God's sake,
Argo.
Justify the ways of Argo to men.
I can't. It's a mystery, isn't it? I mean, it's a proper mystery. I think one of the things that this year's whole crop proves is the absolute brilliance of Team America, because, you know, Argo is essentially Team America. These people have to act their way out of the clutches of, you know, terrorists. And, you know, that also plays into something like Zero Dark 30. And North Korea is sort of in the news, isn't it? So I think that's the sort of real star of this year's Oscars in a funny kind of way.
So, Peter, nail your colours to the mast. It's Argo?
Almost certainly, but I think Lincoln might just pinch it.
Catherine?
I'm more confused after this discussion than ever, so I'm going to go...
After all this, you've actually just come away with
less
nothing.
certainty than ever.
Beasts.
Beasts?
Beast it.
Argo, science fantasy adventure.
Moonscape, Mars, desert.
They need an exotic location to shoot.
You need a producer.
If I'm doing a fake movie, it's going to be a fake hit.
You don't have a better bad idea than this?
This is the best bad idea we have, sir. By far.
So it's definitely Argo if it isn't Lincoln, though it might be Beasts. Glad to be of service. Do be sure to check out our Oscar Interactive, which is on the site right now, and rest assured that we shall be covering the actual event live through the night on Sunday. Please join us and see just how wrong we are.